Hello and welcome to the What Women Want Today podcast. You might be asking yourself right about now, well, what do women want? I mean, we're pretty complex creatures, right? Well, I think we want it all, and I'm here to explore it with you. My name is Terry Kellums. I'm your host. Go grab your favorite beverage. I've already got my glass of wine, and let's get started. Hello and welcome to this week's episode of the What Women Want Today podcast. This is your host, Terry Kellums. Today, I am excited. I have Halle, Evealyn on the show with me today. Halle, welcome to the show. I'm happy to have you here to share with our listeners today.
Thank you. I'm excited to be here.
You know, Halle, when I started this podcast, one of the things about midlife and all the changes we experience, I felt sad that my own mother did not have the resources that we have available today. And I decided that when I had the opportunity to provide something to my audience they hadn't been exposed to before, I was going to do that, because I feel like when we don't have enough information, our reaction is to resist or to be fearful. So you will be my first guest on the show to talk about money and wealth creation. And I would like to start today by talking a little bit about your journey and how you ended up being an author of 3 books and becoming a transformational wealth coach and speaker.
All right. Well, I'm happy to share. I come to all of this stuff fairly organically. I was an atheist until I was in my mid-30s, and then I went to Egypt for the very first time. And on that trip, I had a spiritual awakening that changed everything. Like literally in one breath, I was no longer the same person. And you couldn't logic me into God beforehand, and you couldn't logic me out of God afterwards. Wow. So I feel like I really came to this stuff very naturally, and after that, my life has really taken on entirely new meaning. So I have conversations with God all the time. For me, God is like breathing. And a couple of years ago, I got this big download about the coming, I'll call it financial tsunami. And that women, as you said, your mom didn't have all the resources that we have. Women weren't even allowed to have their own mortgages, their own credit cards, or their own bank accounts without their husbands or their fathers co-signing until less than 50 years ago. It was 1973. Thank you, Ruth Bader Ginsburg. But at that point, we really had very bad tools because our moms and our grandmas and generations before then, it's all kind of come down from there. It's really only been in the last few decades where we've been able to say, hey, things are different now, and we do have resources. And that was just this big thing that hit me. It actually almost knocked me off my bike, because at the same time, I got this hit about what I call goddess of crypto, which is this kind of energy of this new money that's coming. And so all I do now is go around telling women, we have a birthright of wealth, and you didn't know that, but you do. And let's shift this for you. And then I have my Goddess of Crypto podcast. You can actually go to goddessofcrypto.me if you want to subscribe on your favorite platform. But the whole purpose of that is just to educate women. I really want women to know you have this birthright of wealth. And that's why I do the transformational coaching work that I do. And that's why I do all of what I do. So, yeah.
Yeah, I think that's why you really caught my attention, because I grew up quite poor. And even as I became a young adult on my own, I still struggled, lived paycheck to paycheck, played the rob Peter to pay Paul game way too many times. And it wasn't until I hit my probably early 40s and my career just really was all in the right places, right? And I met my now husband, and we both had these amazing careers. We had great jobs with great stable companies, with retirement funds and all the stuff that everybody wants, right? But it wasn't until a few years into our relationship that we made some really good investments, and things really started happening for us to the point now where, we are a lot more comfortable. Our financial picture is very nice, and we will live a very comfortable retired life. But you know what? That message from my past, from my childhood, I don't think has ever really gone away because,
Yeah.
I I think I have a trigger about like wasting food and, like I won't spend a lot of money on myself. Like I play what I call the shopping cart game. Like I will put something in my shopping cart, whether it's virtual on Amazon or at the store, and I will try to talk myself out of buying those things. And I think it all stems back to, like that message that you might not have enough. You should be careful. You might not have enough. I think I would probably be a perfect client for you, right?
You would. Oh my goodness. Let me help coach you through that a little bit though right now, because I know that it's going to help your audience as well.
Yes.
This does come, the scarcity mentality in your case comes from being poor as a kid and not having enough. But it got tied up with your self-worth, right? Because I mean, it's hard to hear, but basically it's like, I'm not worth spending money on. And that's the story that, because 90% of what we get embedded in us happens to be by the time we're 6 years old.
Sure.
Like that's just the way that it is. So you have a little Terry living inside of you who learned when she was 5, 4, whatever, that she wasn't worth spending money on. Now, listen, your parents were probably great people and had great intentions and really wanted to help. And I totally respect that. But that doesn't have any effect on how it taught you on the inside. Right. And those stories that you have now carried around that got embedded at that really early age. So I want to encourage you to remember now when you go out, little Terry, and to invite her to like come sit in your lap when you are meditating or praying, to invite her, like, remember the things that you like to do when you were a little kid. Like for me, I loved to play jacks. And so when I want to tap into little Halle, I have a set of jacks right up there on my shelf that I will put on the floor and play, because that's something that I really loved doing when I was a little girl. And so by bringing little Halle in energetically, like feeling her, and I don't care to you, maybe not to you necessarily, Terry, but like to your audience, if somebody's listening and they're like, hey, the crazy lady's talking, it doesn't really matter, because this simple stuff really, really works. And I've worked with over like 1,500 clients I've gotten to, and I really specialize in working with women. I love getting to help women. So your homework, Terry, is to tap into little Terry. Think about, did you like to play hopscotch? Did you like to ride your bike? Did you like to get ice cream? And bring little Terry along when you do that, and ask her, what do you want? And you'll hear it's like, it's little stuff. It's like, I want a hug, or, I want to play, or I want an ice cream. And if you're listening to this and you have little kids, you can often like do what I call transference, which is you can kind of invest in the little kid that energy of you as a little girl. But it's really important that you remember that you do have value. And as you begin to love on little Terry and tell her how great she is and how much you love her and how important she is, that energy will relax. And it won't be, oh, let me talk myself out of that. It will be, I have so much value. Let me go enjoy this, whatever this is, whether it's something in your Amazon cart or going and getting a spa day. Because the more that you participate in the experience of giving Terry things that you do feel have value, the more you will begin to feel that big Terry has value, not just little Terry. Does that make sense?
It does. And, homework assignment accepted. Thank you.
Good. I'm so glad. That's awesome. And listen, I don't mean to say that, because I know we can be a very much a culture of buying stuff. They say that happiness is more likely achieved by spending money on experiences than by spending money on stuff. So if you're not a stuff person, that's fine. You don't have to be somebody that wants to just go shopping every single day, or like, gets a hit off of, if you're getting that dopamine hit from the Amazon guy showing up every day, Well, it better be because he's super cute, because that's not, otherwise that's not really healthy. But if you do enjoy spending money on experiences, saying, okay, I'm going to go and get a manicure, or I'm going to go get a spa treatment, or I'm going to save for a cruise with my husband, or whatever it is that you'd like to do, that's any of that stuff counts towards this. And it doesn't actually have to be something that you're spending money on. But a lot of times we'll block ourselves with money. We'll have a story that like we don't like we'll say, well, I'm too broke to spend money on myself. And at that moment, maybe that's true, but I always say you're experiencing today what you thought about yesterday, because your thoughts are going to become your reality. That's how it works. Right. So you want to see different results. You got to, let's just say you have to write a new story today to have that new story show up tomorrow. So if you feel like you're broke today, but your money energy has been like all messed up for a long time, you can fix it really quickly, but it's very important that you begin to make different choices. So if you're spending time with little Terry, for example, that will start to shift you. In the meantime, you can still spend time with little Terry and do free stuff, because that's really what she wants more than anything, is to have your attention and to know that you're thinking about her and you care about her.
Yeah, I love that. That's amazing. And so here you are, you're like it was Africa, right? Where you kind of had the spiritual awakening, you said?
In Egypt, yes, which is in Africa. You are correct. Right. Yes.
So how did that lead you? So I guess I have a little missing piece here, and I'm wondering if my audience might too. So how did your spiritual awakening lead you? Or do you feel like it was the Spirit of God that was talking to you, telling you like, or leading you on to say, you need to go help women. You need to, influence this gender in this time of life, to not be so afraid of money and wealth creation, and help them realize that this is their birthright. Like what happened in between your spiritual awakening and now that has led you to feel so passionate about what you're doing?
Well, I guess there is a missing piece, of course, because I skipped over a whole bunch of stuff.
Sure.
But,
yeah.
The short version is I wanted to help other people wake up. I call God spirit, but whichever word works best for you is perfectly fine with me. So what I heard from spirit is that it calls me the facilitator. So I'm the facilitator of all that I do, because really, like, if you're going to shift, you're shifting. I'm just guiding you to do the shift, right? It's all going to happen inside of you. Like, it's between you and God. And so I started leading tours all over the world because I wanted to help other people wake up the way that I had. So, and I still do that. You can go to toursandretreats.com and get onto our mailing list, and we'll tell you about the tours that we do. I've got a group going to Egypt with me in March, actually. That tour is open. I think there's like 6 spots left. So I love taking people to the other side of the planet and having them really get like the 65,000 foot view of their lives, because it really does help to change them. And then when you go to a power center on the planet, like Egypt or Bali or Peru or, Mexico, you really anchor that in, like it can shift faster. And what happened was I started leading these Eat, Pray, Love tours to Bali. Because I got excited about the book. And so I put together a tour where it was all on Bali, but we had we had a restaurant in Italy, and then or an Italian restaurant. And then we taught people how to pray like the Balinese. And then we took them to meet the characters from the book. And this tour was immensely popular. And women would show up on the tour and they would be like, I really want the changes that Elizabeth Gilbert experienced in Eat, Pray, Love. I have a week, go. And so I would start to pull out these like tools from my own spiritual toolbox, from my own self-help and growth toolbox. Like, hey, let's see if this one works. And stuff was really working. And then on my 10th Eat, Pray, Love tour, I met somebody on my trip and fell madly in love, and left my husband of almost 25 years and moved 3,000 miles across the country to live with her. So that's still we've been together 9 years, and I'm still like like, really, this is my life? But I'm at the point now where it's like, you love who you love. And I fell in love with this person, and therefore I wasn't in love with this person anymore. That's the best that I can describe it. When that happened, I left, he and I had been running our businesses together for 20 years. And I really left my whole life behind, like 4 bedrooms and 3 dogs and this person that I thought was my soulmate and that I would stay with forever. I just kind of outgrew all of it. And when I got here to Miami, which is where I am now, I was like, now what? What am I going to do? How is my life going to, it was really scorched earth.
Can I ask you how old you were at that time? Were you going through
midlife?
Yes. Were you going through a midlife awakening?
Well, I was 46. I met her actually 2 days before my 46th birthday. I like to say she was my gift. But it was a really powerful time, but it was very potent, because 3 months earlier I had been to a workshop where I had said I had broken a board with my hand, and I had said that I was going to stop being afraid of being too big in the world, because I have you can't tell this on an audio or on Zoom or whatever, but I have this enormous energy. Like, I will walk into a room and it's like, I am there. And that is something, I have a daughter
like that, so I know exactly what you mean.
and you probably then also know that there are a lot of people who would be perfectly happy if your daughter toned it down a little bit and, stayed a little bit smaller, because it makes other people feel more comfortable. And I was for a long time, was very apologetic about my energy. And my ex was also he's a really good person, but he loved that I was there as his support network. But he was always kind of energetically bopping me on the head a little bit if I got too big for my britches. Let's just put it that way. And I didn't even realize that as much until after I had left him. In fact, when I started doing Goddess of Crypto, the podcast, and when I started really getting out there with it and advertising it and everything, I got this real nasty gram from him. And we talk almost never, but I got this note from him where he was like, why are you doing this? And, this is a scam. And what do you think you're doing? And I was like, look, you're trying to bop me on the head, but you're not the boss of me anymore. So I don't care. I didn't even write back. I was like, this thing's none of my business. But it took me a long time to get there. And I didn't realize in the relationship that he was helping me to stay small. And listen, we all make our own choices, right? I chose to be in that relationship. I chose to overlook a lot of things. He was an amazing spiritual teacher for me. I don't have any regrets. But when it was time for me to go, that was how it showed up, was this incendiary, 14-year-old high school girl kind of crush where I just couldn't think of or see anything else. And, was long distance for nearly a year before I finally came over to okay, this is my life going forward. I'm making this commitment. And, it's worked out really well. And, he's now got 2 kids with his new person. And so, he's happy about that. So, all things happen for a reason, but it was this need to be as big as I really am in the world, and to allow myself to be with a partner who encouraged that instead of discouraged that, and then allowed me to make the choices that I made. And so I got here and I was like, okay, all I know is I'm going to continue to work for myself, because I'm pretty sure I'm unemployable after over 20 years, running my own businesses at the time. And I want to be able to be location independent, because I still want to lead my tours around the world. So what am I going to do? And I started saying, hey, all this coaching stuff that I was doing on these tours, and it's really helped people. Maybe I could get paid to do that at home. And, there was a time that you could hire me for $50 an hour because I was testing the waters.
Right.
And now I really charge at the top of my game, because I help people. I mean, when I say transformational, I'm not kidding. It's enormous, the transformations that I've been able to help facilitate for people. And it's incredible, not just how much more money people will make, but but people saying like, I never thought I could heal this, and I'm able to heal and get through it and forgive the things I never thought I could forgive, or live the life that I never thought that and always dreamed of and always desired. And it's just been, again, it just feels like such a gift from God. It really does. And that's really that was the shift. So like I said, everything happens for a reason. And I got to go from being this person that I thought like it was a version of me.
Mm-hmm.
And I, and it was a version where I was happy, but I'm happier now because I'm more myself. And when it was time to go, I remember asking Spirit, like, do I stay or do I go? And of course, Spirit says the lesson is in the choosing. So it's not like there's only one path for you. It's,
Mm-hmm.
you have multiple paths, multiple possibilities, and you just have to decide between them. But it said to me at the time, if you stay, you'll stay small. And that was when I knew I couldn't stay, because I didn't want to be small anymore.
Well, and the reason I asked you about your age, it's not so much about the number, perhaps, as much as it's about women reaching a certain point in their lives where they're starting to question, is this my life? Is this what I want? Do I feel fulfilled? What is my purpose going forward? And, I've said this many times on the podcast before. It's like, you have probably done one of a few things. You've, dedicated your life to raising your family, which is very, very noble and very precious, right? Or you've had this great career and maybe didn't have a family. But whatever the case is, you do get to a certain point in the middle of your life and you start to go, okay, what is my story here? What is my story going to look like going forward? Because I've either spent all my life concentrating on my family and forgot to develop me and grow me, and now I don't know who I am, or I've spent all this time on my career and I forgot to be joyful. I forgot to feel fulfilled. I forgot to just love life. Like not everybody fits into those two categories, but I feel like
a lot of people do.
They do. And so that's why I was wondering, like, did you get to a point in your life where, and it sounds sort of like you did, where you're like, there's more for me. I need to grow. I had a client who wanted this bigger life than what she had, and she was seeking. And so I felt like you were seeking maybe a little bit.
I was.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So,
yeah. I would have called myself a spiritual seeker.
mm-hmm.
I just wasn't finding what I was looking for until that moment when I had the spiritual awakening. And after that, it was like I had a direct conduit, but you still have to know what questions to ask. Sure. And I would not have said I was having a midlife crisis.
Yeah, I hate that word.
Well, I wasn't questioning my relationship with my partner until the moment that I met my girlfriend. I simply did not know that this was the direction that things were going to go. I was so shocked. And then I spent the whole next year, they say leap and the net will appear, but they don't say you're going to be in free fall for quite a while. and you won't know whether there is a net. So that was my next year. And, I was leading a tour to South Africa, and I sat down in front of Victoria Falls and I asked, okay, Spirit, what do I need to do next? And I could feel these puzzle pieces just falling into place over my head. And I understood that time of questioning, that time of not being certain, that time of free fall was over. And that I had now coalesced into this next phase. Because, and I don't talk about this very often, but there was this moment, this time when I could have left the relationship that I was in, the new one, and that maybe there would have been something different for me again had I turned left instead of right. It's like the movie Sliding Doors. We're all old enough to remember that film, right? The Gwyneth Paltrow movie where so it's the closest thing to an interactive movie, which was my first career. I got to pioneer interactive films. So it's basically a movie where she goes through a set of sliding doors, and in part of the movie, she goes into one reality, and in another part of the movie, she goes to a different reality. And I'm saying, like, normal 3D world reality, but it's like a different choice. Like in one version, she ends up with the guy, and then the other version, she ends up really with herself. And it's a really cool movie because it shows you the different perspectives and also shows you the different possibilities. But we are like that too, and you're being invited, like right now, you, Terry, are being invited probably into some crossroad that if you turn left instead of right, it would change the entire trajectory of your life. And the thing is, when you're in it, you don't even know that.
Yeah.
You're not, unless you're like deliberately working with a coach and you're working on the change. And I'll have women who come to me and they're like, all right, I want to make this change about my business. And then within like a few months, they've exited their marriage or they've committed to somebody. Like I had a woman come to me. She was looking to help me heal with her childhood. Well, as it unfolded, it turned out that she had been rejecting men, a beautiful woman, rejecting men over and over and over. Well, she just got engaged and she's already been with the guy for close to 2 years, about 3 months after we stopped working together. She healed what she needed to heal, but it allowed her to find love. Well, that is not why she came to me. And yet I've seen
like a
that
byproduct.
happen.
It's a byproduct of the mind shifts and the growth that you experience. Yeah. I love that.
Yeah.
So in all of this, you wrote 3 books. How did that happen?
I did. Well, the first book, there was a time when, in addition to leading tours around the world, I also ghost wrote for people. So I've actually written screenplays. I've sold a screenplay for 6 figures. I'm working on another one now because somebody came to me from 10 years ago and said, help. I need your help on the rewrites. And I was like, okay. So now I'm back on a script project. But I always felt like I was a writer. When I was 10 years old, I wrote my first play, and I've been writing stuff ever since. And after my spiritual awakening, I was like, oh, I have to write Red Goddess Rising, which is about the tours that I've been leading up the Nile ever since my spiritual awakening, and also about that, because I wanted women to feel like if they couldn't come to Egypt with me, they could have that experience. And I wanted somebody who was an atheist, who was a seeker, to know, yes, you can get the shift that you want to get, and that would be okay. I was all excited about that. So that's Red Goddess Rising. And then when I started coaching, I would ask women, tell me 3 things that you can do to bring more joy in your life.
That was your first book though, right? The Joy was the first one?
No, that Red Goddess Rising was my first book.
Okay.
100 Ways to Be in Joy was written much more recently than that.
Okay. Gotcha.
In fact, Red Goddess Rising is 10 years old already. I can't even believe it. Yeah. Wow. So 100 Ways to Be in Joy was written. And it's beautiful illustrations, like watercolor illustrations, sort of pointillism looking, and just a sentence. And each sentence is a different way to be in joy. And there are 100 of them, because I would get crickets at the other end of the phone when I would ask women to tell me 3 ways they could be in joy. So I wanted my clients to be able to have 100 ways to pick from. So that was that book. And then I collaborated with somebody on the book Nutri-Glamorous, How to Feel Beautiful Inside and Out. And that's really I love what I call bumper sticker coaching. If I give you a simple tool, if it's short enough to fit on a bumper sticker, you're going to remember it in an emergency.
I love that.
So Nutri-Glamorous is this combination of my bumper sticker coaching and a way for you to be timeless and ageless. It was really written for women who are of our age, where you're at that place where you're really done saying, I'm gonna do for everybody on the outside, and you start to say, how can I do for me on the inside? Yeah. But I got to weave my coaching throughout it. So I really awesome. Love that book.
I'm going to put all 3 links, because I went to Amazon to check them all out, and I thought they all sounded really interesting. I love your story. I love that. And I know there's going to be someone out there listening that this is how I always feel in every podcast episode. Like there's something that the guest says that I feel like somebody out in the audience is going to grab hold of that and go, I have permission. This person did this. And I can do this too. I can make a change in my life. I don't have to be scared. There are resources out there to help me if I need help along the way. I love that. I love that you're helping women, and you work with mostly women, you said?
I do. I have now male clients in groups, and I will occasionally take on a male who is a private client, just if that's, if it's by referral. But mostly I talk to women and mostly I work with women because I feel like the guys have had all of the support and help over the decades, and the women haven't. The women have been told, like, be a team player and there's no I in team, and be a good little girl. And it's like, no, be you, be unapologetically you. I love that Marianne Williamson quote where she says, who are we to be? Gorgeous, talented, fabulous. Who are you not to be? You are a child of God, and playing small doesn't serve you. But I really love especially the end of the quote, where she says, by shining your light, you unconsciously give others permission to shine theirs. Mm-hmm. And what that quote doesn't say, but I've kind of extended it a little bit, is, and so on until the whole world is illuminated. Mm-hmm. So as you give your, as you're on this podcast and as you're celebrating women individually in their individual stories, and that story is giving another woman a chance to shine her light, that light is illuminating other women, giving them a chance to shine their light. And ladies, it is our time. We are at a point. I mean, it doesn't matter to me what you think about the specifics of the overturning of Roe v. Wade, but it does matter that women's rights were shown to be able to be taken away, and women were shown to be not equal to men. So again, it's got nothing to do with the specifics of it. It has to do with the fact that that is a blanket decision for all women. And what I want is for all women to know you're a sovereign entity. Make your own decisions and know that your body, your thoughts, your mind, everything are about what you feel, not about what your husband feels, what your boyfriend feels. Like, I had a client one time who told me that it was the most ridiculously beautiful expression. She said she pretzeled herself for her partner. Mm. And I remember being that girl. Mm-hmm. And I know so many of you listening are going to know what I'm talking about, that you pretzel yourself for your person. Yeah. And that's what I want to have us stop doing, because we are the ones who are the creators of life, and we are the ones who are the creators of brilliant ideas. And we are so beautifully organized and able to execute in an emergency. We're the ones who won't lose our heads. We actually are the strong sex. And so I want all the women who are listening to this to know you have that strength, you have that resilience. Go live your dreams, because that's what's here for you.
Yeah. And you know what? I love what you were saying about the light. It's like, I love that women in our age group, we finally realized that just because we light someone else's torch, we're not dimming our own light. Absolutely. we are coming such a long way in the way of, women supporting women encouraging women, uplifting. So I love your message. Let's tell everybody where they can reach you on socials, or how they can find out more about your programs or anything else about you that you'd like them to know.
Absolutely. Well, first of all, I have a gift for all of your listeners. Awesome. If you go to hallemoney.com, Halle like Barry, HALLE, hallemoney.com, you can download the new energy of money, which is where I talk about the fact that I believe that this new energy of money is very feminine, and it has a very female flow to it. So it's something that can really empower you as a woman, and it's how to empower you with money. So go to hallemoney.com. You can pick that up, and thank you. That will put you in touch with me if you would like. I have a Facebook page. I'm on Instagram. I'm on Twitter. I'm pretty much everywhere. Telegram and LinkedIn and all the places. And I'll be happy to leave those links for your show notes. But really the best way to make sure that you're in touch with me is to go to hallemoney.com.
Great. Awesome. Thank you so much for being here today. My one last question as we wrap up today is, what do you think women want today, Halle?
Such a great question. I believe that today women want more than anything to live their dreams, to live the lives of their dreams. My experience with crypto has taught me that men still want a lot of stuff, and women want to be able to support their families. They want to be able to have that enough money to have joy and pleasure in their lives. And they want the freedom to be able to do it. So that's what I think women want.
And I absolutely love that. Thank you so much for that. Thank you for being here with me today.
Oh, I have had such a good time. And I just want to say, I love your energy. You have such a warmth about you. I'm sure your listeners hear that every week. So thank you.
Oh, that's very sweet. I appreciate that. Thanks for being here. And I appreciate your time today. Thank you so much for joining me. I hope you enjoyed today's conversation as much as I did. If you'd like to continue the conversation, come on over and join our private Facebook group, What Women Want Today. I'd love to hang out with you some more there. Any resources mentioned in today's episode will be in the show notes. You can find me on Facebook and Instagram at What Women Want Today Podcast, or visit my website at whatwomenwanttoday.com. Please remember to subscribe, download, and share. Leave me a review. It helps other amazing women find the show and become a member of our community. One last thing for you today. You are not alone. You are worthy of love and a fulfilled life. Now it's time to go after it.